But in that moment, you go to that extreme, like you were saying, of like, my wife's gonna die and my baby's gonna die and I'm gonna be alone. What now? And having to let that go as I was driving. And hey, this is Cody with daddare.com. Welcome back to another Dad Dare video. Today we have a pretty intense story we wanted to share with you guys. It was a traumatic birthing experience when this little guy came into the world, and we've taken some time to process it, and we wanted to share the story with you because I think it's helpful that we continue to talk about it, and it just helps us continue to heal and move forward. Obviously, he's here, he's healthy, we're healthy, Taylor's healthy, so it ended out being good, but it was pretty scary for a little bit. And so Clancy is how old now?
3.5 months.
3.5 months old. Being a parent has been a lot of things, but it has been an absolute joy. I mean, last night we had him in the bathtub. Watch this video real quick.
Oh my goodness. A wheel. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Was that a whale? Was that a whale? Are you okay? Yeah. A whale.
It made me feel like my life was complete. I mean, it was so much fun just hearing him start to laugh really for the first time, and as he's starting to make different faces and interact with us at a more detailed level. It's just been so much fun to be a dad and to watch Taylor be a mom. There's been some struggles with him sleeping, going down to sleep, but yeah, overall it's been awesome, and he's a huge blessing, and we're super excited to be parents and doing our best to strive to be the best dad that I can be and the best mom that she can be. And that's what this whole channel is about. We originally started this channel just kind of documenting our life and our adventures, and I realized that becoming and being the best dad that I can be is a huge passion that I've had for a long time, and also that I'll continue to be passionate about for the rest of my life. And so thus Dad Dare was born, and yeah, so why don't you kind of share the story, and I can chime in at different parts.
Yeah, I'll share up until it kind of is a blur, the hospital. And then
okay. Yeah, so before we jump in, I'd invite you guys to subscribe to our channel and make sure the bell notification is turned on. As we continue to post videos, you'll get notified. So, yeah. Go for it.
Okay, so yeah, delivery was not what we were expecting at all. My pregnancy with Clancy was really great. I mean, pregnancy's hard, but I didn't have any complications. It was pretty easy as far as that goes. So we were, I guess, expecting a pretty simple delivery. Like we were seeing a midwife here in town who we loved. She did a great job, and we were planning to do a home birth. We did a lot of research and kind of came to that conclusion together to do a home birth, water birth here in the tub. So we had all that ready to go. I was almost 2 weeks late with him. So we had an induction at the hospital scheduled, hoping to not have to go. With just the current state of hospitals right now, it's just one more reason not to be at the hospital. So we had that scheduled, but I was doing everything I could with my midwife naturally to induce labor. And he was just nice and cozy in there. So he wasn't ready to come out, and that was okay. The night before the induction was scheduled, I was just about 2 weeks overdue. I started having contractions here at the house, and it was about 9 o'clock that evening. My midwife came to check on me, check his heart rate and everything, make sure he was okay, and he was. And she basically just said, all right, let's get the tub set up and let's have a baby. So everything was going great here at home. Contractions are no joke. They were intense. It was cool to feel my body doing what it does naturally, and just cool to experience it, but no joke. Very just intense. So from about 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. I was in pretty active labor. At 3 a.m. my water broke during a contraction, and so that was kind of the last thing that needed to happen before he could come. So my water broke, which was super exciting. My midwife and her assistant checked his heart rate right when my water broke, and it actually dropped. So it was in the 120s the whole time I was in labor, and it dropped to the 40s once my water broke. So something wasn't right. And so at that moment, my midwife got me on our bed, had me switch different positions to see if we could get his heart rate back up to the 120s. And nothing was really working. So for a few minutes, it was dropped. It was really low, and my midwife didn't know what else to do. So she called the local.
What were you thinking at that point?
I was scared that he was not going to make it. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I just did what she told me to do, and was just praying that he was going to be okay, because I thought he was going to die, honestly.
Yeah, so it's pretty scary. And then I was right there too. She had me call the hospital, and so that was pretty scary for me too. It's like I was calm and okay during it, but it was just like, okay, this is happening. It's just like, man, this is unfortunate. But there's a lot going on at once.
Yeah.
So he tried oxygen, and that didn't work. So called an ambulance.
Yeah, so she called the ambulance, and she had the only way she really knew, or can I start over?
Yeah. Say it however you want.
The only thing she could think to do was to basically push him back up to where he was before my water broke. So she pushed him back up, got his head between her fingers like this, and pushed him back up, and that's what stabilized his heart rate. But she didn't want to move her hand in case his heart rate dropped again. So I'll let you imagine that was...
It's probably the most detailed about this that we'll get.
It was pretty uncomfortable. I just was terrified that he wasn't gonna make it. So I trusted her, and it worked. I mean, she basically saved his life. So that position that she was in that position with me on the stretcher, in the ambulance, all the way to the hospital. I was just kind of in a state of panic. I prayed a lot, I cried a lot, having contractions still, trying not to push him out. Even though I wanted to, like, my body was there, it was ready, but I couldn't have him yet.
So yeah, that's probably the most impressive part of this whole story is, like, you know, she literally held him in a place where he was okay all the way to the hospital. Like, our midwife, you know, in our opinion, you know, she saved his life, and that was huge. Like, you know, we're so thankful for her. And the fact that she kind of saw it coming. She was hanging around before Taylor's water broke, because she had a concern that this could happen. It wasn't that it was going to happen or whatever, so but she was kind of going through all the possibilities, just because he hadn't descended and Taylor had more water than necessary. And also, as I'm explaining this, I'm realizing like we're not, you know, in the medical field, and so we could be saying things a little bit different, so just kind of take that as this is just our opinion of what happened. But from our opinion, like, our midwife did everything that she should have, and she did it perfectly, and that was so awesome. And then also the EMTs that came in, paramedics, actually 2 ambulances showed up to the house, but they did a great job as well. And we basically, you know, I had the doors propped open. I had them come in here and everything, and got Taylor and the midwife into the ambulance, and the medics jumped in, and then they took off. And I was standing here at the house and just like, okay, what just happened? All of a sudden I went from like this just crazy to I'm standing here alone. I'm like, okay, I gotta go to the hospital, you know. So I put like our stuff, our bag in the car, and then I drove to the hospital. I didn't keep up with the ambulance because they were driving pretty fast, but just during, if I'll share this part, during that car ride to the hospital, for me was probably the most powerful part of this whole story. Just I was brought to tears as I was driving, just thinking about the fact of like that I could lose my family. You know, obviously everything was okay, everything was, you know, turned out fine, but in that moment you go to that extreme, like you were saying, of like, I'm gonna lose, you know, lose the baby. And so in my head it's like, okay, my wife's gonna die and my baby's gonna die and I'm gonna be alone. What now? And having to let that go as I was driving, and I'm having this conversation with God, and I basically just handed him my family. You know, I handed Taylor over to him, I handed Clancy over to him. We were the only ones at that point that knew his name. But I basically just surrendered my family to the Lord, and he immediately filled me with peace. I mean, I was crying as I was driving, and the Lord just like filled me with peace, and I was okay, and I was content, and I just had complete trust in him. And the Lord and I have a very just close relationship, and so you know, he speaks and I hear him, and he just was comforting me, and you know, said some things to me in the car that were just kind of a special moment between me and God. And so for me, that was a very powerful part of this story, and I got to show up to the hospital, to the emergency room, with this peace that I was carrying, that like, you know, everything's gonna be okay. No matter what happens in here, like everything's gonna be okay. So I showed up to the door, and they were just getting them out of the ambulance. And yeah, took you inside to the emergency room. Do you remember much of that?
I just remember a lot of people talking, telling me what to do, change beds, do this, do that.
Yeah,
that's really it. I don't.
Like, went in the emergency room, they changed beds, and then they're like, we're going to the operating room, and the doctor is waiting in there. So we went to the operating room
to have a C-section.
Yeah, so we rolled in there. And there was like a lot of people. There's like 20 to 30 people. It's the middle of the night, and small town. And I was walking down the hall. You know, one of the guys, I don't know if he was a doctor or what, but he was talking to me, and it was just, I was like, man, there's a lot of people. But then as we entered into the OR, then people stayed behind. So we got in there, and immediately the doctor's like, hey, I'm your doctor, and we're gonna do a C-section. And I was like, whoa, like that's not what we had planned. Yeah, probably, very low on our list of what we wanted to happen.
But at that point, I just wanted him out. I just wanted him out and alive and it to be over. So
yeah,
I was like, do what you need to do. I mean, I didn't say anything. I was just crying and panicking basically. But looking back, anything would have been fine just to get him out and healthy.
Yeah. So, you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
So, they did not end up doing a C-section. What happened was they were planning on doing that, and then our midwife, took her hand out, and his heart rate stayed healthy. So at that point, they said, why don't we try just pushing like normal and see what happens. And so Taylor did that, and they were confident. They're like, yeah, I think you can just have a natural birth, and we're just gonna push this baby out. So then they said, let's move to the
labor and delivery.
The labor and delivery room. So now we're in our third room, and he switched beds again too.
That was probably the most annoying part, was having to switch beds.
So you're on your fourth bed, including the stretcher for the ambulance.
Yeah.
And third room, and we go in there, and they start, you just started pushing, and it was probably 4 or 5 pushes, and he came out, and I was able to put some gloves on, and the doctor kind of stepped out of the way. She was still right there, but she stepped out of the way, and I was able to catch him as he came out. He had his head up, so I caught him like this as he came out, and he was a lot smaller and a lot slimier. But then able to kind of flip him over like this. He had the cord around his neck, so I took the cord off and then kind of put his head down so he could get some of the fluid out. And then as I held him there, kind of like this, the 2 other doctors were cleaning him up. And they kind of wiped him down and everything, cleaned him up. And then I was able to present him to Taylor.
And he was coughing and crying. I mean, right when you flipped him over. Right?
Yeah, as soon as he flipped over,
that noise to me was like the most. It was like a load off my shoulders. Like, I can breathe. He's okay. Yeah.
So then I presented him to you, and you took him. What was that like when I handed him to you?
I just kept thinking, he's okay. He's okay. He's okay. He's here. He's okay. Like, I was crying. I was, I have oxygen and IVs, and they're telling me to flip over and watch the cord and all that. You're trying to navigate all this stuff, and then you just have this baby in your hand, and it's just this like overwhelming feeling. I don't know. I don't have many words for it.
And for me, it was very emotionless. I was in a state, like I said before, I was at peace, but as I was helping catch him, I was in more of this like emergency response type of mindset, and I relate it to having like helped with some medical calls and the firefighting stuff that I've done. You go into just this state of mind where it's just like you have a job to do and you just do that job. And I wasn't thinking like, this is my son. It was just like, okay, there's a baby coming out, I gotta hold on tight to it. And there was no like emotional reaction inside of me that was going on that I could feel. I'm sure there was, but as I handed him to Taylor, and then you held him for a little bit, and then you handed him back to me, at that point, then I had this rush of just emotion that came over me, and and at that point I was like, whoa, this is my son. Like, this is so cool. And yeah, so that was kind of interesting as well. And due to COVID and everything, we had to stay in the hospital for a couple days, and we couldn't leave our room. So
it's a long few days.
Yeah, we're just in one room for 2 days, and like our friends and family came to the window on the outside of the building, and we put our phones on speakerphone, and kind of they got to visit him that way, kind of see him through the glass. But yeah, that was just interesting. Again, not what we had expected for the birth process of this little guy.
I will say the doctors and the nurses at the hospital were awesome with just the state of everyone and everything that was going on. They just handled it really well and treated us really well and allowed me to naturally have him, you know, vaginally what I wanted. They were asking, you know, me questions, and I really appreciate that and the way they treated us.
Yeah. But yeah, then we brought him home, and pretty much everything continued to go well after that point, right?
Yeah, with him, he was totally healthy and eating great. I had a couple issues come up, postpartum stuff come up, so it's been a rough ride for me. But I mean, he's been great and healthy and growing and everything. So
yeah,
super thankful.
Yeah, big story, you know, and I appreciate you guys who are still here and have stuck around. Thanks for hearing our story, and it's helpful for us just to share it and to just kind of process it and know that it was a form of trauma that we went through. Obviously there's more intense traumas that can happen, but yeah, for us it was a big deal. So very cool to be where we're at today, and it's been super fun to just watch him get older, and he's here.
Yeah,
pretty fun. So that's it for this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Dads, hats off to you.
and moms.
It's Dad. The channel is Dad Dare.
But moms do a lot of work.
I know. I'm not saying.
Yeah. So good job, moms, if you're watching.
What would be the equivalent of Dad Dare for moms? Mom motivation. I don't know.
I don't know.